Hi everyone, my name is Brittany and I'm going to be teaching you guys a lab today. It's going to be about the femur bone and we're going to be using pages 69 and 68 in your lab manuals. They're going to be looking like this, and then you got the blank side. I'm mostly going to be using this side just so you guys can learn the structures and the names and where they're at, and then you can use the opposite side to kind of label and practice on your own time. I am a sophomore in the x-ray program, so I have done all this before, and if you guys need anything or have any questions or anything and you don't want to ask in front of the group, we'll get to a good stopping point between a certain amount of structures where you can ask me individually or you can raise your hand and ask a question then. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so the femur bone, many of you probably know this, but it is the longest bone in the body. It is located in your leg. And so superiorly it's connected to the hip, and then inferiorly it's connected to your tibia, and then your tibia is connected to your fibula, but you'll learn that later on. So then we're going to learn about the different 19 structures that are on this page, and you can see there's different highlighted colors that go along with it, like the blue, and then there's purple, like different things like that, and then there's a red line, there's green ones, all that kind of fun stuff. We'll go over all that in case you guys get confused. But if anyone has any questions at any point, just feel free to let me know. Okay, so we're going to start with the top end of the femur. So right here, this blue part, it's outlined in blue. It's called the head of the femur. It's on both sides. You can see it. So this is going to be the front of the bone, and this is going to be the back of the bone. So anterior and posterior side. So we are going to talk about the blue part, so if everyone can look at that. So that's the head of the femur. And then, so you see there's like another one that's like fovea capitis. Well, if you think about it, like, you have your head, and if you wear like a baseball cap, it covers your head. So you have the fovea capitis at the top. So you can think of it kind of like as a baseball cap, and all you have to remember is the fovea part. With capitis, you'd be like, oh yeah, like the cap is on the head of the femur. So that's a fun way to remember that. And then if you go a little bit further down, you can see the green circle, the little like, that goes around. That's the neck of the femur. So you can think of it as like your head is always connected to your neck kind of thing. Pretty simple. And then, so then we have the greater trochanteric, and that's pretty prominent. You can see it on both the anterior side and the posterior side. That way you always know which part you're on. And then if you go a little further down, you have the lesser trochanteric prominence type thing. And then, so we can differentiate those by this one. The greater trochanteric is much bigger in size than the lesser one, and it's always closer to the head, whereas this one is closer to like the shaft or the body of the bone. That's how I like to remember it. And so the lesser trochanteric is usually medial, so it's like facing the same way as the head of the femur. So that's another good way if you're more into that. So then if we go right here, this red line, it's kind of imaginary. It is kind of like a line drawing to both of them on the anterior side. So it is connecting the greater trochanter to the lesser trochanter, and that's called the intertrochanteric line. It's not like an actual line, it's kind of imaginary, but you can put that together. And on the posterior side, we have a more definite line, which is here in the purple. You can see the purple name, intertrochanteric crest, and that's more prominent, kind of like a crescent moon, if you will. So it has a more definite like valley to the bone. You can see that on your models. And so then if we move further down, you can see on both sides that there is the shaft of the bone, or the body of the femur. And then on the posterior side, there is this more prominent line that goes down. You can see it down here. It's outlined in red also. It's called the linea aspera. and it connects a couple of your muscles and stuff like that to the bone. You'll learn that later on. You don't have to know that right now, but just a fun fact for you. If you keep going down, this purple highlighted surface is going to be the popliteal surface. That's going to be like the back of your knee, basically. And then, if you keep going, there's this little prominent like structure right here. I don't know if you can see that right there. A little prominent structure. It's called adductor tubercle. It's pretty cool. And then, if you keep going, there's these two structures at the bottom. They're pretty prominent. So those are the condyles of the femur. You have the medial condyle of the femur and the lateral condyle of the femur. The medial condyle is kind of down further. It like sits lower, and it's always on the same side as the head of the femur. So if you like want to like practice with your eyes closed, and like whatever way the head of the femur faces, that's what side, if you follow it down, that's what side the medial condyle of the femur is. So then the opposite one is going to be the lateral condyle of the femur. And then we have, in the center, we have this like little dip. It's called like little dip in the surface right there. It's the intercondylar fossa. Kind of like a hole, so that's like the fossa. You guys learned about that earlier in the year. And then so above the condyles, we have the epicondyles. So epi is like on top of, so you can think of that. So you have the medial epicondyle of the femur on the medial side, and then you have the lateral epicondyle of the femur on the lateral side. Is everyone okay so far? Do we have any questions? No? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So then on the front side, we have the medial epicondyle of the femur. See, it's on the same side as the head of the femur. So that's a really good way to know where you're at. And then you have the patellar surface. So this is where your patella bone is going to sit right on top of it. It's going to help make your kneecap. So then you have the lateral epicondyle of the femur right there next to it. So you have both the epicondyles and the condyles. You can't really see the condyles on this view, but they're there. Just know that, but they're on the back side. So that's another good way to know if you're anterior or posterior. All right. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right, well, I'm going to go walk around and see if we have any individual questions, and just flag me down if you have any questions.